because all of the questions will be spoken and all of the answers will be spoken. So that means that although the chat function might be open, we probably won't use it unless we are absolutely desperate and something has happened which means that we can't hear you. So the first thing is you need to be prepared to talk. Now that of course might be, if you like, an intellectual decision. You've got to be prepared to talk. It might also be a technical challenge. That is to say, if, well, while we've had our teaching together, you haven't been participating in the teaching by talking, and that's because you have a poor internet connection, then you need to make sure that you are somewhere with a good internet connection for the exam. Now, of course, as we know, the exam is at the beginning of January, so there's plenty of time to plan where you might have to be, but you will have to speak. So that is the first thing, and that is a very important thing, because we cannot write everything in the chat, and nor can you write everything in the chat as fast as we can speak. So a good internet connection, which I think I'm going to put here, you need to talk. That is the first thing. The second thing is that the exam lasts for about 30 minutes. When I say about, I mean if it lasts for exactly 30 minutes. And during that time, everybody in the group is expected to speak. So I'm going to write everyone participates. And I can see somebody's typing. I don't know if they're typing to me. No, okay. So ideally, again I say ideally, you volunteer to speak. So that we can select somebody to answer a question. So the questions are usually general to everyone. So if you think you know the answer, you can just say, I think I know the answer, and then give us the answer, okay? We're not going to be nominating. We're not going to be saying, what do you think, Bao? And what do you think, Vin? And that sort of thing. It just takes too long. And as far as the exam is concerned, participation shows your engagement in your work. And this is true for all exams. But participation shows your engagement with your work, and if you don't say much and you don't answer any questions, this in the end might affect your grade, because the grade, and this is what most people are worried about, the grade is based on two things. It's based on the written work in conjunction with the oral exam. So let's imagine that you don't really want to say much, and you're a bit shy, and you don't really like speaking in English too much. But you've done quite a lot of work on your writing. And you're sitting there thinking, well, I did quite a lot of work on my writing. Of course, you will get a grade, and your grade will not go down. Your grade will not go down because you don't speak, but it won't go up. So what you have to imagine is, because I can't tell you what your grade will be yet, for obvious reasons, but you have to imagine I have got a grade now. Now you have handed in your work, sort of thing. I have got a grade, and I want to make my grade better. How do I do this? I do this by speaking. So your grade, your written work establishes the baseline, and your oral contributions will improve the baseline grade. So let's just write that down. So the written work is your baseline. So if you say nothing, and I've read your work, and I think, okay, that's a 4, and then you say nothing, well, obviously then your grade will remain at a 4. If, on the other hand, I look at your work and I think, no, that's a 4, but in the exam, you have some useful and interesting things to say, then maybe your grade will go up to a 7. And the good news here is that if you say things in the exam which are, if you like, wrong or misunderstood, it does not make your grade go down, because, of course, the written work is the baseline, and you can't go below the baseline. So this is where it's very important for you that you speak during the exam. Has everybody understood why they need to speak in the exam? Please send me a smiley, or you can even say yes if you like and practice speaking. Okay, good. People understand. Excellent. So the next thing to say is we have 30 minutes, and the 30 minutes is roughly divided. That is to say, it is a good idea, and I will call it a good idea, to have a mini presentation without a PowerPoint. We do not need a PowerPoint. Please do not do a PowerPoint. The problem with PowerPoint is that you will speak for too long. You will tell us things we already know, and you will waste time in the exam. So no PowerPoint, but you can do a short presentation. All right. Now, when I say short, I'm thinking 90 seconds. And I'm thinking max 2 minutes per person. So very brief, but it's a good idea to do it because it helps to sort of warm you up. First of all, it means that you know your microphone is working and that we, the examiners, can hear you. Second, it means that you gain a bit of confidence in saying something. So that's good. Everybody now thinks, oh yes, I'll say something for 90 seconds. That's not long. The question is now, what are you going to say? So that is the question we've got to answer. You don't want to say too much. 90 seconds is good. 2 minutes is maximum. So aiming at 90 seconds, what can you talk about? Right. The first thing you can do is you can talk about the challenge. A lot of people have written to me in emails and said in their emails that they think that this is a difficult exercise to do and it is a challenge. Yeah, okay. Tell me it's a challenge, but tell me why. Don't just tell me, oh, you know, it was really difficult because we'd never done this before. All right, okay. That might be true, and I would have some sympathy, but it's not going to improve your grade. Okay, so you want to improve your grade, so you tell me it's been a challenge and you tell me why. That means you need to be specific. So maybe when you tell me why, you pick on something in particular that was part of the process that you thought was a challenge, or you thought was difficult, or you thought was interesting. Okay. How are we going to do this? Well, first of all, you would tell the examiner you have short presentations. You need to say it because not everybody will have, not everybody must have. This is just a good idea. Okay. So if you don't want to do a presentation, that's fine. So you need to tell the examiners you have short presentations. What order do you put your presentations in? Well, I would say the things that you talk about are probably the problem formulation. That is one thing that most people found challenging, actually writing it. You might talk briefly, again, you've only got 90 seconds, about your own problem formulation. Because in a way, one of the things you can say is that it was a really interesting process working out what sort of question you should ask. But maybe it was a bit frustrating not really being able to answer it. This is true for most people, and you can say that. And then the other things you can talk about might be the literature search methods. So that maybe you choose one of the literature search methods per person or something like that. You've only got 90 seconds. Don't talk for too long. Make an interesting point and then let somebody else take over. The point is not to waste time. The point is to talk and to say something substantial, something with value. Okay, that's the point. So this means that in 30 minutes that we have spent with a couple of questions from the examiners, we've probably spent about 10 minutes of your exam. Because you've done 2 minutes each, that's about 8 minutes, and then a couple of questions from the teachers, that takes another 2 minutes. So we've done about 10 minutes. Then I know that I will look at your written work, and I might ask a question. And the question might be something like, Kang, I noticed that on page 1, you have written blah, 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 blah. And then I say, what do you mean by this? Can you explain it to me? Now, it would be a big mistake not to have your own manuscript. I mean, you don't need it on paper, but you do need it where you can see it. So then you can expect that there will be about 10 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, of questions about the text. And the questions about the text will almost certainly have something to do with the questionnaire on Canvas. So I'll put that in brackets. Canvas. So they will probably almost certainly have something to do with the questionnaire keywords. So I might say to you, so what's the difference between bottom-up and top-down analysis? And then I expect that you will be able to tell me. And those keywords in that questionnaire, you are almost bound to get 1 or 2 questions from that questionnaire. You know, how do you do a literature search? What is a snowball search? Things like that. Those questions there in that keywords questionnaire are 90% sure to come up in your exam, no matter which group you are. And the reason that they will come up is because they are keywords. And they are keywords because you need to show me that you have understood what you have been doing. That's the first thing. But more important in a way is that you can show me that you know what these things are, because we will revisit these things in 4th semester and in 5th semester. So I need to be able to say things like, you know, what's qualitative data in the 4th semester, and know that nearly everybody in the class can answer that question, because otherwise my teaching will start to go backwards into 3rd semester. All right, so that keywords questionnaire is a good place to go for group discussion. In other words, you can use the keywords questionnaire together in your groups to kind of test each other, you know, so that you can ask each other those questions as preparation. What does Boolean search mean? What are Boolean operators? You can just do a test like that, a sort of rapid fire test in your group, so that everybody knows what these things are, so that when I ask the question, there are 4 people trying to tell me what the answer is. This might look disorganized, it might look like everybody's shouting, but as far as I'm concerned, as the examiner, it is a demonstration of engagement by the group in the work that they have been doing. So if everybody shouts together, okay, I will probably choose 1 person to speak. But if I would rather have everybody shouting together than dead silence. That's an example of dead silence. I'll give you another one. how engaged do I sound in my lesson if I say nothing? Well, I don't. And the same is true of your exam. So think of it that way. Think of it as being, you know, a time for lively discussion when everybody joins in. So the Canvas questionnaire is my best advice. Use that as a group quiz, so that you can have a group meeting. You might have more than one, but you know, you can have at least one group meeting, which is like a pop quiz, where you just have fun firing questions at each other in English and getting answers. If you do it as a pop quiz, I would do sort of like everybody takes a turn with a question and everybody takes a turn with an answer, of course. But then think about the answers, all right? So if somebody gives you a question like, what are Boolean operators? And you say, and, or, and not. That is a correct answer. But it's not a very interesting answer. So once you can answer the questions in the keyword questionnaire, you then need to think, what else can I say? And that might mean you say something about what you did in your project. So in the pop quiz, somebody says, what are Boolean operators? You answer, and, not, and, or. That is correct, but it is a boring answer in the exam. And it's a boring answer because it doesn't show us anything about your project. So when you do the pop quiz thing, which is good practice and a really good idea, then the next thing to do is to think to yourself, okay, can I give them an example? So one person would give the question, another person would give the answer, but also give an example. E.g. is an abbreviation for example. And so you get like question, that's fine, and then you give an answer and an example from your own work. Now that, of course, would be a very good thing, because then it demonstrates that you know what you've done. So this is probably the pop quiz thing is probably the best tip that I have. But all right, let's imagine now that we've done our brief presentations. We've spent about 8, maybe 10 minutes there. We've now asked some questions, done some questions about the manuscript, about what you've written. Then you would get a bit of feedback, and that might be the last 5 minutes or maybe even the last 10, it depends. But certainly you would get 5 minutes of feedback on what you have done. Now, when you get your 5 minutes of feedback, you might feel that the feedback is criticism in a negative sense. So if I said, oh, you know, somebody didn't seem to write very much, or they didn't really understand what the analytic stance was, or something like that, right? So let's take that as an example. I say, you didn't really understand what analytic stance meant. And then the student says, oh, yes, I did. And I say, no, you didn't. Oh, yes, I did. I know all about it. By the time we get to feedback, it's not the time for a discussion. So feedback time is time to make notes. That's what we do then. You make notes because you know that in fourth semester you'll be doing something similar again, and it's always good to have some notes. So the feedback is not really a time for discussion. So if you feel you're being criticized, I'm afraid you just have to make a note of it on a piece of paper, because maybe you are being criticized. But by the time we have 5 minutes only, if the feedback turns into too much of a discussion, you don't get much feedback, which of course is not helpful in the long run. In the long run, you need feedback to help yourselves with fourth semester. So those are my comments so far about the exam, and the exam takes about 30 minutes, and you are given a grade at the end of the exam. So you get your feedback and you get a grade, and the grade is entered into Wiseflow, and that's that. The job is done. Now, the only other thing I have to say about the exam is that some people have had problems with the exam. They've had problems handing in. If you have heard about these problems with Wiseflow and people who couldn't hand in, it turns out that the reason they couldn't hand in, and I found this slightly funny, I have to say, but the reason that they couldn't hand in was because they had already passed the exam. I still find it slightly funny. But their work is not wasted. And the work that they have done with the group and for the group is good because of fourth semester and because of fifth semester. So although they may feel, oh gosh, I'd already done this exam and passed it, so I didn't need to do the elective, I think the way to look at it is that you are improving your skills in something which is not, what should we say, is not usual as part of your daily work on the ATCM course. And it's this thing which is not so usual for you is also something that we're going to have to do again in fourth semester and fifth semester. So I think that the work you have done, which will not be graded, will still be a big plus. It will still be a big advantage when you come to fourth semester. So it has not been a waste of time, but it has been hopefully a time when you have been able to help your group and help yourself learn more about it, the third semester elective, as the basis for fourth and the basis for fifth. So now I'm going to switch off my microphone, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes to prepare some questions for me about the exam. So that you can talk about any of your worries or questions or concerns, okay? So, are there any questions about the exam? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Good, good. So, any questions about the exam? Yes, you are correct. There's a total of 30 minutes and about 10 minutes the presentation. If you do, you don't have to do them, remember. Then there are things about executive and then some sort of feedback. Start with then individual things, but make it participate. So I will not nominate unless I.
Wait, teachers, your connection seems to be low.
Okay.